Magic differs from religion as weeds differ from flowers, merely by negative social evaluation. Robert Parker. Welcome back, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Did you miss us when we took our birthday break? For our birthday? I like saying our birthday.
Our birthday. So do I. It's like I'm talking to my brother as well, because that's what we say. We say our birthday.
Yeah. So you've always just shared a birthday.
Yeah, I share my birthday with a lot of people, especially because my husband's birthday is 3 days after mine. And now my brother-in-law's girlfriend, her birthday is 2 days after mine. So we just had a really big celebration the other day.
It's just a big old house of Capricorns.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Just kidding. We are the best astrological sign. Thank you.
Yeah, we're the best at everything. If you're new here, hello. We might have some new listeners from the All Killa No Filla Facebook group. I know a lot of you guys who listen to that podcast were kind enough to check out our podcast. So hello. We're not as funny as those people, but we'll try. They're professional comedians, Emily. We can't compete with that.
And to our Lithuanian listener?
Yeah, who are you? Where are you?
Please reveal yourself.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, our gender-neutral Lithuanian listener.
We hope you're staying warm. It is really snowy in Ireland right now, which is cool. I went out for a crunch earlier. I really like going out there when the snow is crunchy.
Yeah, so do I. Some people hate that sound, and I love that sound.
The best sound ever.
Very satisfying.
Making me feel like I'm living in Fargo. I've been asking Emily a lot of questions about Minnesota because of Fargo, and she keeps reiterating to me that Fargo is not in Minnesota.
It's not in Minnesota. Unfortunately.
They keep referring to it as being in Minnesota.
It's not.
For some reason. It's just funny because it's like a role reversal of when Emily was watching Derry Girls and asking me questions about Derry and the north of Ireland in general. So now she's getting it all back about the Midwest. So
yeah, because what did you say? Do people say commode?
Yeah, they keep referring to go to the toilet as
opposed to
you
toilet.
gotta use the commode. And Emily's like, yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah, no. I told Neve the only place I ever heard it was when I was in the hospital, and they had like a little bucket on like a cart.
Yeah, like an actual
They rolled
commode.
it in. They're like, do you need the commode? And I was like, sure. All I know is I have to poop myself, so.
What did we say about personal stories?
Here I go again. Oh my goodness.
We're Emily and Neve. We overshare.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is Emily and I am Neve and we are Rowan Pine. And oh my God, I'm so excited for you, our listener, because we are about to start a whole series.
The thickest series of them all.
The thickest with 2 C's, possibly a third C.
Maybe a Q.
Maybe a Q. Actually, yeah, I think there's a Q in this. It's so thick.
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2 Qs. Yeah, our series is on witchcraft. You're going to get a lot of like nice, big, fat, juicy episodes. Is this getting very visceral? I don't know. We're going to take a little hop skip trip around the world and look at witchcraft and how you can interpret witchcraft and magic and cunning and insert word here for whatever sort of folk healing remedy for all different sorts of cultures. And we're going to go way back through to ancient history because we're giant nerds and we've been sending each other screenshots of old books and talking about, oh my God, I found this quote. Isn't this cool? And it genuinely is cool. So if you're a big nerd about witchcraft, you're in the right place.
Not even like hashtag witches of Instagram. We're talking about the history of it.
Yeah.
And basically what's been really funny is that Neve and I have been talking about it and sharing what we found and our sources and all that stuff. And we were like, should we just become like a witch historian podcast? Because there's so much out there and it's all so interesting.
Yeah, and there's so much more than the Salem witch trials.
Right.
But that's going to be a later episode because we can't do one on this if we don't talk about witch trials. But it's not just going to be Salem.
Right.
We'll talk about some other trials and witch hunts that were going on.
Eye-opening. It's fascinating. It's depressing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of the things.
Do we have any housekeeping before we get into it? Housekeeping. Oh yeah, we got, who sent us that really lovely message? Do you want to give them a little shout out?
We can. Hold, please.
It might encourage more lovely messages.
I'm not sure how to pronounce their name. It is either Nish or Niche. Nish. New friend of the podcast.
So thank you, Nish/niche. That's so lovely that you took the time to send us such a nice message. We're not going to read it out because nobody cares but us. But we do care a lot.
It was such a great message. And I opened it right as we were just about to record, and I read it to Neve. And we both were just like, aw, we were expecting it to go the complete opposite way. We thought it was going to be a criticism. But it wasn't. It was the nicest message ever.
When you see like a block of text or a paragraph, you're like, oh no. What is this?
Yeah, when it's like, I'm 5 episodes in and I really like you. It's like,
yeah.
We're going down.
But thank you so much. And that's setting us up for our new little series. Sorry to anybody who isn't interested in witchcraft. But you can speed listen when we're done.
Yeah, you also might be tuned out of our episodes for like 6 episodes. And we're very sorry, but also not sorry because we wanted to do this.
Yes. And also then when it's done, it's done. And then we'll go into a lot of other stuff. We've got a few requests for episodes on deck already from real life people, as if everybody else isn't real. People in our real lives.
Just a bunch of fake people.
And also Discord. Also, small plug to Discord. Go hang out there because it's really cool. And we post there a lot.
It's a fun little community so far.
Mm-hmm. Emily, would you like to get us started?
I would like to get us started. While we can't exactly pinpoint the very moment someone decided they would use objects, plants, animals, or words in rituals that would later be called witchcraft, we can search far back in history and try to piece together ancient practices that were later deemed to be witchcraft. We can also look back in history to find out when the negative attitudes towards witchcraft began and why women were the main focus of the violence. For this series, I would like to quote one of the articles I read that defined what a witch means. Quote, a person, especially a woman, claiming or popularly believed to possess magical powers and practice sorcery. End quote.
There is nothing more terrifying than a powerful woman.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, we are just burdened with glorious purpose. I'm really sorry. That is a quote from Loki from the Marvel movies, but I say that often. I'm just burdened with glorious purpose.
You took it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It feels like...
I wouldn't know that because I don't watch movies.
Yeah, I could have gotten away with that, but I feel like somebody would have ratted me out to you and be like, she didn't make that up.
Neve stealing.
Neve is being sued by Disney, and
oh no, that's the last thing we want.
There are no more episodes.
Rowan Pine has disappeared. So many ancient cultures have female figures that are characterized as witches. A witch might not be who a person is, but is, in fact, a cultural construction. It was almost always a woman who uses magic or sorcery to accomplish goals or afflict evil. Witches in the ancient world, as well as the modern world, were the embodiment of male fear about powerful women and women's sexuality. As we said.
Yeah.
In this episode, I'll be covering the ancient Greek and Roman witches and witchcraft. The interesting thing about the difference between Roman and Greek witches is that Roman witches were depicted as old, scary, and incredibly powerful women, while the Greek witches were depicted as young, beautiful seductresses, and they were also women.
That's interesting.
Greek society,
the difference,
yeah,
because the cultures are usually, people talk about them being so similar, and as we always say, the Romans borrowed a lot from the Greeks when they were forming their belief system. So,
but it does get into a little bit more why potentially Roman women were seen as worse than Greek women.
Okay.
Or witches, anyway.
Okay.
So Greek society, as well as many other societies, are patriarchal. If women were not controlled by men, the men believed that the women were capable of evil.
Because we are.
In the Greco-Roman world, the belief in magic was universal. When there were natural disasters, it was believed that it was caused by a witch practicing black magic. In Greek literature, there are stories of women engaging in witchcraft as far back as Homer, who was born in the 8th century BC. For instance, Hecate was the Greek goddess of witchcraft and magic. A distinguishable characteristic of Greek witches was that they were very sexual and predatory. Circe, for example, in her pursuit of Odysseus, turned his men into swine and then kept him as a prisoner on her island. Like many other witches, she engaged in pharmacone, which was the making of brews and potions.
I know these are supposed to be villainous traits, but I can't help but be like, good for her. Good for her.
I know. I'm like, these are all bad things? Because in my head...
We're not meant to turn them into swine? Oh.
Yeah. We're not meant to take prisoners on our island.
But like, why else would you have an island?
Yeah.
Lounging?
And potion making is just, come on.
Yeah. Have you ever seen me at a cocktail bar? Come on, it's potions.
When I was a little kid, there was this, it wasn't really like a pothole. It was just kind of like a divot in like the street on like the curb behind my house. And every time after it rained, it would be like this big puddle. And like my friends and I would like throw sand and leaves and all that stuff in it and like pretend that we were witches making potions.
Yeah, I think that's like a vital part of the female experience. Like, if you identify as female, you have made a rock potion at some point in your life.
Yeah, with some sticks and leaves and stuff like that.
I don't know what the guy equivalent of that is. Maybe like digging a hole.
The Roman Empire.
Boys do love to dig a big hole, especially at the beach.
Or just breaking things.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
All the little boys I know are just like obsessed with breaking things. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
I have a fucking 38-year-old husband who loves to break ice and puddles. It's like if he sees one, he just can't help himself.
38?
Something like that. Is he? He's turning 39. But like, we'll be going outside, getting in the car. I'm like, where did you go? And he's found a puddle to like stick his heel in. And he's like, oh, it's just so satisfying.
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay. We're late, but fine.
Right. Yeah, we're late. Get in the car.
Yeah.
Lamia is another witch from Greek mythology who became a child-eating monster after Hera killed her children.
Okay,
this
but that's a beautiful name. Sorry.
Lamia?
Lamia, that's a beautiful name. Why did she...
Steve says, I called it for my baby.
Why does she have to be a child-eating monster?
Yeah, I don't
know. That sucks. By the way, I'm not pregnant. She's talking about a hypothetical baby, just in case anybody thought that was a slip through.
You start getting congratulations messages. You're like, what's happening?
It's like once you get married, if there's any sort of like... Ewan made like an offhand comment in front of his aunt one day, and she was like in the middle of running across the room to hug me. I was like, no.
Oh no. Or like if you, God forbid, like turn down a drink.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted.
Okay.
When you were talking about child eating monsters.
Yeah, no worries. So the pattern continued on in tales and lore of witches. We have even spoken about it in other episodes, where in a more modern take on witchcraft, women are accused of using dead babies' body parts to practice their magic.
Yeah.
You might recall.
Like, why wouldn't you? It's recycle.
Yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah.
The Romans took witchcraft and sorcery very seriously. In the Law of the 12 Tables, the casting of spells which harmed crops, cattle, and persons were prohibited. Witchcraft was a capital crime in the Roman world, and witches could be burned or buried alive. Many witches in the Roman world were associated with poisons. Women who made potions or perfume, as Circe did, could be condemned as witches. Which, perfume? Come on.
My God. Also,
you can't make perfume?
Side note, I heard today that it's like a thing to put perfume on your ankles.
For what purpose?
Seduction.
You putting your ankles up by people's faces? Or
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Because I saw this like meme, and he was like, oh, when you thought you were afraid to make a move, and then you realized she put perfume on her ankles. Because like, you know, she thought it was going to be a sure thing. Like, I've never heard of this. It's not a waste. I like to smell my own perfume. I can't smell it down there.
Yeah, you're just bending over.
Yeah. Doing like yoga poses.
My God, when you said that, all I could think of was that like the Christian Bale, like American Psycho thing. Like where it's like the legs are just like up. Back to the witches.
Yeah, the potions.
Curse tablets were also very common in ancient Rome. There's a large collection of curse tablets, over 2,000 of them from across the Mediterranean, spanning a millennium. They are the best evidence we have of the practice of magic being used from 5th century BCE to 5th century BC. Curse tablets, also called bear with me. I couldn't find pronunciation on that. Defictionis. I'm not sure.
Well done. I'm going to say that was perfect.
I'm just going to call them curse tablets. But they're thin pieces of metal, mostly made of lead or pewter, inscribed with a spell or hex designed to curse a lover, rival, or wrongdoer, etc. The messages were addressed to spirits or the gods with hopes that they would help punish the victim by binding or restricting them using supernatural powers. The process involved writing the victim's name on a thin sheet of lead along with varying magical formulas or symbols, then burying the tablet in or near a tomb, a place of execution, or a battlefield to give spirits of the dead power over the victim.
Ooh.
Sometimes the curse tablets were even transfixed with various items, such as nails, which were believed to add magical potency.
Oh, wow. So that sounds like the equivalent of, when people make like witch bottles and like bury them in like a graveyard or in the corner of somebody's house or, oh, cool. I didn't know that
cool.
they were
and
this
I love
hardcore.
That these still exist.
Yeah.
Right? Some curse tablets showed that wives who felt threatened by their husband's slave women would resort to practicing secretive magic because the Roman law was not on their side. Depictions of Roman witches, as stated before, are very telling of how men thought of powerful women at the time. They thought they were horrific, ugly, and void of innocence. Women's names were found on just about all of the curse tablets. What is interesting is that even on the tablets in which the dispute is between two men, a woman's name will still be present on the tablet, which makes me wonder if they hired a witch.
Oh my God.
She's like signing her work.
Best job ever.
Right?
Be like a witch hit woman. You'd be like, there is this guy at work who is so annoying. And you're like, say less. I got this.
Yeah.
So do you know what kind of curses they were? Were they like, was it like, itchy curses or like, death curses or?
Yeah, they don't say exactly what the curses were, but they do talk about the difference between the Greek and Roman curse tablets, which I'll get into in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The author of the book Witchcraft and Magic in Europe, Ancient Greece and Rome, Valerie Irene Jane Flint, points out that on the tablets most women are addressed by their matronymic names as opposed to their patronymic names, which was customary at that time. There isn't any agreed upon explanation as to why they use their names that way, but there are a couple of theories. One is that the custom could have been borrowed from ancient Egyptian or Babylonian custom that used maternal lineage as a way to properly identify someone. Secondly, it is theorized that using a mother's name would help the curse's accuracy and potency, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, you got to channel all that feminine energy into it.
Yeah, I was like, fuck yeah, women.
And what was that word again? Did you say matrilineal name? Because I want to steal it. I want to use that.
They call it
matronymic. Matronymic.
Yeah.
Instead of patronymic.
So that's like your female lineage name.
For my episode, I was looking through like other sources, and actually it might have been throughout like Norse lineage, because I was looking a little bit into that, and they were talking about how they would use like the mother's name in ancient times because it was a lot easier to attribute a baby to its mother than its father.
Right. It's like they know who birthed it.
You definitely know who birthed the child. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, you don't know who the sperm donor was. Flint also thinks that the wide use of the matronymics is an indicator that cursing was a, quote, particularly female thing, or perhaps it was an attempt to attribute cursing as a feminine instrument. Pew, pew, pew.
We like poisons and curses. What can I say? We're non-confrontational, but very efficient. Like a poison, you can administer it and then leave.
Right.
Same with a curse. You don't have to hang around, watch all the crap that happens after.
Yeah. Or the whole thing about how women will poison you and they'll take care of you while they do it. Oh, does your head hurt? Would you like some Tylenol?
Are you pissing blood?
We better get you to the doctor.
But later.
Yeah. Just in a day or
Many
two.
hours from now. Yeah. We would make good witches.
I mean, we are witches, so it's just...
I'll take it.
Especially after all the research and stuff like that, yeah, I'm like, yes, I'm a witch. I will own that title now. The difference between Greek and Roman curse tablets is pretty intense. The Greeks seem to be a little nicer because, judging by the inscriptions on the curse tablets, they only wanted to inhibit their rivals, while the Romans wanted to completely obliterate their rivals. For example, an archival record of 130 ancient tablets from the sacred springs at Bath shows messages from concerned Roman occupants of Aquae Solis. Demanding retribution for theft was common, and curses were written back to front with harsh, analogous formulas, exhorting, quote, death, destruction, and ruin upon their targets. A lot of the curse tablets involved Roman wives and their husbands' slave women. Roman law did not see slave women as equals, so if a man were to have sex with his slave woman, it was not viewed as adultery. Because of this, women did not feel that they had any protection against their husband sleeping with another woman, so they turned to magic. This gave them the power... What?
Did the men write these laws? Do you think the men wrote these laws?
We know the men wrote these laws.
You know, just this whole like loophole on adultery, you know, it's different because I own her, you know? She's not a full person.
Right. And if you are listening to this podcast and you haven't caught on yet, we consider ourselves a feminist podcast.
I don't know if anybody could have not got that, like, if they've listened to anything before of us.
Yeah. And maybe not a feminist podcast, but I think it happens when you are hosted by two people who are for women's rights.
And also studying witchcraft. You can't not be a feminist and read about all of this.
Yeah. Looking back at all of this stuff, it really makes sense that women did turn to witchcraft for so many things.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like, witchcraft is pretty hard to, I know, like, as we will see in later episodes, people try to attribute it to people that maybe had nothing to do with whatever happened, but it's very hard to pin the crime of like witchcraft on people.
Right.
Unless they're like, I don't get the whole signing tablets, but maybe if it's like you're outsourcing the witchcraft, that's why. I suppose you would have to find the tablet to prove that like a curse was put upon you.
Yeah.
Or you would have to have that sort of evidence. So like when you're a woman who is essentially like the property of a man and you have something that's happening and you like feel like compelled to right the wrong that's been done against you, I can see why witchcraft would be the one, because it's less confrontational. You can sort of do it and hope for the best rather than like outright, you know, attacking him or, you know, attacking her or whatever.
Yeah.
It may be.
And like
it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah, it's subtle. And like it talks about is like women didn't have like power in any way. They couldn't go to like a court of law or something like that and claim any of these things because it didn't really matter. They didn't matter.
Yeah.
For curse tablets and other magic acts, there were more magic acts to counteract, say, a curse. For example, amulets were one of the most common protections in the Greco-Roman world. Most amulets were made with cheap materials, sometimes even beetles, but precious stones were believed to have more efficacy. So many amulets have been found over the years that it led historians to believe that they had purpose and weren't just ornamental. Amulets are often abbreviated forms of the formulas found in the extant magical papyri. Surprisingly, some of the papyri and old magical texts survived, even though the ascendants of Christianity had Paul the Apostle convince a bunch of Ephesians, or Ephesia being a city in ancient Greece, to bring their magical books out and burn them. The texts of the Greek magical papyri are often written as we write a recipe. Take the eye of a bat, for example. So in other words, the magic requires certain ingredients, much as Odysseus required the herb moly to defeat the magic of Circe. But it is not just as simple as knowing how to put a recipe together. Appropriate gestures at certain points in the magical ritual are required to accompany the ingredients. Different gestures, it would seem, produce various effects. A magical ritual done in the right way can guarantee the revealing of dreams and the talent of interpreting them correctly. In other cases, certain spells allow one to send out a demon or demons to harm one's enemies, or even to break up someone's marriage.
I love this. This is so cool.
I know.
Because, you know, when you see like in TV and film, when there's like, say, a witch or whatever, or a wizard, And they're like making all the gestures and stuff. You think that's just for like dramatic effect, but I love that that is actually written into the recipe of the spell.
Yeah.
That like, you know, you have to like open your palms or whatever it is. That's so cool.
Just kind of my own sort of, I don't know if I'd call it research, but just like about like magic rituals and stuff like that. It is so interesting how a lot of them are a whole body thing, which includes, you know, movement of your arms and your legs, the direction that you're facing, your voice, chanting, all that kind of stuff. I think it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And you can see why like modern like Wicca is so intertwined with like mindfulness practices and like meditation and stuff, because it's all about checking in with your body and, you know, really thinking about like where your energy is, focusing your energy, like opening your heart or opening like your mind or letting yourself be grounded in the earth or like feeling which parts of your body are touching the earth and all of that.
Yeah. Well, and
So,
even
yeah, it's cool that survived.
And I even think about how it's come into play in like organized religion. Like Catholicism is so big with all the like holding the thing up in the air and like the like I don't even I didn't grow up Catholic, so I don't know exactly what they're saying.
It's 100% true. Yeah, like when they're blessing the I'm so sorry. I'm going to say it, haunted bread. But when they're blessing the communion, that is from Blind Boy Boat Club, who has a podcast. It's amazing. Check it out if you don't know it. But he refers to it as haunted bread, and he almost got cancelled for it. But it's just the funniest phrase I've ever heard.
That is good.
I say that as somebody who was raised Catholic. Yeah, like when they're doing the blessing, like the priest literally has to hold his hands up. I'm holding my hands up like palms towards myself. And then like for like another line in the prayer, they have to like put their palms out, and it's all, you know, recalling the Last Supper and all of that. So, and that's actually written into the prayer books that the priest is actually working from.
Right.
That they change every now and then for some reason. When I go back to mass after a few years, I'm like, oh, they changed the words of that? Okay. Why?
It isn't that funny that you would know that they changed the words, because everything is so I didn't grow up
regimented.
Yeah, and just so like when you grow up in that faith, you grow up knowing, okay, now this happens and now that happens and now they say this exact phrase and now we repeat it back and all that kind of stuff. One of the weirdest experiences I ever had was I didn't grow up saying the Lord's Prayer, and to hear like an entire large group of people all reciting it at the same time, and they know like when to pause and like all that stuff, I was like, I panicked. I was like, I'm in a cult. Yeah.
It's funny, like I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Like, first of all, knowing like when certain things happen during mass, a lot of that for me is because I was an altar girl, like an altar server.
My husband was an altar boy.
Yeah, you had to know like when you had to go light the candles, or like you had to know when you had to do all of the different parts of the mass. So that
okay, now's my cue.
Pretty much, like I know when to ring the bell, like when he like holds up the haunted bread, and so that is like a big part of that. But just when you say that, when there's people all like reciting the Lord's Prayer, I have this memory of, funnily enough, I was studying the Romans when I was in school. So I'm talking like primary school, elementary school age. I remember them talking about how long the empire had lasted and like the religions that they had before Christianity. And that like for thousands of years the people had believed this, and they were talking about like, you know, what, you know, the religious rites were like, and, you know, the chanting and all of that. And I remember going to mass that Sunday and standing there and just thinking, well, like people believed that for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And this has only been around for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, and everybody's just chanting. And I remember going, oh, this is just like that.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the start of it for me.
The start of what, Neve?
The start of going, I don't know if I believe all this. As you and I have talked about before, like I still respect religion, and I still think that it brings great value to people's life. And we know that like on a psychological level, being part of something and all reciting something or singing something together just makes you feel good and makes you feel like you belong, and it makes you feel like you connect with people.
Right.
And if that's what you like to do, then good for you.
And the ritual is important to people, and no doubt it helps your anxiety if you're somebody who is able to tell yourself, I trust God and I know that God will handle this. That's gotta help. That's why I'm crippled by my anxiety.
Yeah, what a lovely notion. Like, that would be great to have that sort of comfort.
Same. But instead I'm just like, wow, everything sucks. And this is great. But yeah, no. Anytime we shit on religion, it's the bad people. It's not the good people. It's the institution and the bad people. If you're using it to try to tell other people how to live their lives, boo.
We didn't make it to episode 29 without people knowing what our views are on religion.
Yeah. But back to ancient Greek and Rome, magic tools were also incredibly common in magic rituals. The tools were just as important as the magic and as the incantations and spells that were repeated for each ritual. A magic kit dating back to around the 3rd century was found in the ancient city of Pergamon in Anatolia. The find consisted of a bronze table and a base covered with symbols, a dish, also decorated with symbols, a large bronze nail with letters inscribed on its flat sides, 2 bronze rings, and 3 black polished stones inscribed with the names of supernatural powers. Classical Greece.
Ooh.
I know, I'm just like, oh, I want it. Classical Greece had 3 men who are all referred to as Theos Aner, or a divine man. The first was Orpheus. The mythical creature was said to have been the father of melodious songs. He was also described by Greek playwright
He's Gleek. He really loved the show Glee by Ryan.
He was also described by Greek playwright Aeschylus as he who had hailed all things by the rapture of his voice. This suggests that there was the belief in the efficacy of song and voice in magic. Orpheus, however, is best known for his descent into the underworld to bring back his wife Eurydice. The second divine man is Pythagoras, famous mathematician and philosopher.
Sorry, just to interrupt, like, the whole if he wanted to, he would. If he's not willing to go into the underworld to bring you back, dump him, girl.
He's just not that into you.
Yeah, the legends are full of men that'll do this stuff. Like, you can't even get a text back.
Yeah,
come on.
And other men are going into the underworld. Okay. The second divine man is Pythagoras, famous mathematician and philosopher. His magical acts include being seen at the same hour in 2 cities, a white eagle permitting him to stroke it, a river greeting him with the words, "Hail, Pythagoras!" Sounds like somebody's full of themselves. Predicting that a dead man would be found on a ship entering a harbor, predicting the appearance of a white bear and declaring it was dead before the messenger reached him bearing the news, biting a venomous snake to death, or in some versions, driving a snake out from a village. These stories also hint at Pythagoras being one of these quote-unquote divine men. His ability to control animals and to transcend space and time, showing he has been touched by the gods.
Okay, as somebody who is terrible at maths, fuck Pythagoras. I don't like him.
Yeah, just go to hell.
What was that about the white bear? He found a dead polar bear. Is that what he's trying to say?
Is that he...
Oh no, there's a polar bear.
He predicted the appearance of a white bear, and then he declared that it was dead before the messenger reached him to bring the news. I don't fully understand what that means. He just says, oh yeah, there's a white bear. But, okay, the white bear's dead now. I don't know.
I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah, special Pythagoras.
Yeah, we just don't like him because of maths.
The third and final divine man is Empedocles. It was said that he was able to rejuvenate the old, heal the sick, summon the dead, and influence the weather. After Empedocles, the amount of magical gifts one has begins getting less and less in the literature. Normally, people were only given one supernatural power as opposed to many, like Empedocles, Orpheus, and Pythagoras. Plato reflects such an attitude in his Laws, where he takes healers, prophets, and sorcerers for granted. He acknowledges that these practitioners existed in Athens, and thus presumably in other Greek cities, and that they had to be reckoned with and controlled by laws. But one should not be afraid of them. Their powers are real, but they themselves represent a rather low order of humanity. What bothers me is that these men are not painted in a negative light for their magic, but women who practice magic were. It was always assumed that women who practiced magic were evil and needed to be punished for their magical practice. Some Latin sources refer to women who engaged in necromancy, and even some who were believed to be shapeshifters. There were both male and female witches or magicians in Rome, and they were often persecuted for casting spells on the emperor. As Pliny the Younger, who was a lawyer, author, and magistrate of ancient Rome, wrote, "Everyone was afraid of witches and their spells. Romans began the first known witch hunts in the imperial period, long before the Christians began burning witches."
So he's like invented it first. We like invented you.
It's like, no, we did it first.
That's such a good point that like, yeah, when the men do it, it's just like
It's like, oh, they're magical.
almost like an act of war.
Divine.
Yeah. And yeah, when women do it, it's just like, oh, they're just vengeful and it's just because they're scorned lovers or it's whatever.
They're trying to seduce
Whatever,
you. They're trying to play tricks. They're trying to...
It's nearly like it's like infantilizing
Yeah.
women as well. It's like they're only doing it for like selfish little shitty reasons, whereas when men do it, it's probably justified and there's probably some noble purpose behind it.
Right, like it's very grand and it's very... Yeah, they're way more important and they're way more... Like people look up to them and stuff like that. Whereas with women, it's like, no, that's black magic and sorcery and they're terrible people and they make perfume and how dare they?
Yeah. And it's interesting that like even as far back as then, and then it's as we're going to see in the episodes coming up, like it's just going to get repeated and repeated and repeated.
It's frustrating. I feel like this is all the equivalent of like, oh, she's the crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
The Roman depictions of witches were often depicted as motivated by spite and malice. Horace, a Roman poet, describes two witches with pale skin, long nails, and long unruly hair. They're shown burying a wolf's head under a full moon to conjure the dead and to make them do their bidding.
Okay, that's metal as fuck.
I know.
That's so cool.
I was like, and what's the problem here?
I love wolves, but that is so cool.
It died of natural causes, Neve. Another Roman depiction of a witch is in the Pharsalia by Lucan. Pretend I'm pronouncing that right if I'm not. I don't think I found pronunciation on this. The witch's name is Erictho. In this epic, she murders people and desecrates their corpses. She is also shown terrorizing the spirits in the realm of the dead by screaming down the throats of corpses on earth. Also metal as fuck.
Holy shit.
More Roman depictions of witches were of the Strix or owl witches. They were women who embodied the screams of birds of ill omen, abducted children, and replaced them with straw dolls, as well as devour the flesh of children. For anybody who listens to the last podcast. And this is why the Roman witches were depicted as ugly, old, and nasty, is because they did way more metal things, for lack of a better word. Whereas the Greek witches were more like, do you like my perfume? Want to come to my island?
Yeah, baby girl witchcraft.
Hashtag girl magic.
You notice like the ultimate villainization of a woman is always when she, I'm not saying this is completely wrong, but when she targets children.
Yeah.
Because anything that's like, if you're not maternal and you aren't interested in inhabiting that role in your existence, it's a sign of almost like psychopathy. It's like if you're not, you don't want to be a mom, you don't want to like nurture children, you don't want to play that role in your life, then there must be something fundamentally wrong with you. And there must be something that you're like 2 steps away from like slaughtering people.
Yeah.
And, like inflicting horrible injuries.
Yeah.
And all of that.
And the people I know in my life who are women who have decided they don't want children, whenever they tell people that, people are like, oh no, you'll change your mind. What? Can't you?
Yeah.
Why do we need women to have children? Sort of like that trope of like, oh, she's the old woman, old creepy woman down the street. She lives alone. She never had kids. That whole trope, that's kind of like the scariest to people for some reason.
there's no way she could have led a fulfilling life because she didn't do that traditional thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you're hearing more and more women now who are, like, in their 50s and 60s going, like, I'm really glad I didn't have kids, or, you know, I'm really glad that it didn't happen for me. Like, maybe I thought at the time, like, I should have done it, or, like, I was debating about it. But, like, when I look back now, I see the life that I have, and I can't imagine it with kids.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, there are plenty of people who have kids who should not have had them.
Right.
And that they should have, like, maybe thought about it a little bit more if they were, you know, in a position to choose and to think about it. Yeah, it's like the scariest thing. Like I said at the start, it's the scariest thing is a woman who has power and also has that, like, self-knowledge and self-confidence to know that, like, she doesn't want to be a wife and a mother.
Yeah.
Or she doesn't want to be a mother, or she doesn't want to be a wife. Maybe she wants to be a mother and not a wife.
Or just with anything. I saw a really good quote about raising your daughters to not be people pleasers and to be assertive and to have somebody know that truly no means no. I'm saying no. I do not want you to do XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And it
doesn't mean try harder.
Right.
It doesn't mean try again. It doesn't mean keep asking.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like so many people, if there is an assertive woman, they don't like it because it's not what young girls are socialized to be.
Men are rewarded for persistence and doggedness, whereas when women do it, it's nagging.
Yeah.
And it's whining, and it's,
well,
like, not.
And if they're assertive, they're a bitch. If they tell you no, it means, like you said, keep trying. It's so frustrating, and I feel like we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like it's related in the sense that the way that women have been villainized over centuries of time for the stupidest shit, to be quite honest.
And a lot of times these are, like, especially, it's like triple fold for, like, marginalized women, or, like, women who maybe didn't come from the right family, or don't look the right way, or maybe they're disabled, or they're not conventionally attractive, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's always, in a way, sometimes it's these women who maybe are practicing some form of witchcraft because they're free from being slotted into that role of being, like, the beautiful wife and mother and, like, the perfect accessory to whatever man has decided to put her on his shelf.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, everybody makes fun of now. It's like, oh, it's always like the, you know, the fat queer women who are, like, the most vocal feminists. Yeah, because maybe they don't give a fuck.
Right.
They don't, like, have to rely on, or they don't have to worry about, like, what men think of them and the male gaze.
And they've heard your shit and they're sick of it. It makes me think of how we talked about the difference in depictions of Greek witches versus Roman witches. And can you imagine if sort of like the old hag was a temptress and a seductress and stuff like that, and, like, she was trying to be sexual and things like that? People would be like, oh my God, ew. And so, like, God forbid.
It's, like, unthinkable.
Yeah. The scream of a bunch of centuries.
Yeah. She probably made an even better witch because she was older. She had all this time to gather knowledge and hone her craft.
Yeah, she was wise. She didn't give a shit about men. Anywho, in the 1st century BC, so many associated Circe with magic that witches were also called Circean. By the 5th century, a long-lasting tradition started in which witches were associated with a certain area of Greece called Thessaly. The earliest record we have of this association is in Aristophanes' Clouds, in which the character Strepsiades talks about having a Thessalian witch, quote, draw down the moon, so that he didn't have to pay interest on his old debts. The author of the book, Drawing Down the Moon, Magic in the Greco-Roman World, Radcliffe G. Edmonds III, says,
Jesus.
Aristophanes' joke about the Thessalian witches drawing down the moon shows that he expected his audience to understand the reference, to know stories about Thessaly, about the strange women there, and about their strange powers. Clearly, by the 5th century BC, Thessaly and the women there had gained a reputation for magic and witchcraft. The quote-unquote joke continued on for centuries. Marshall references a Thessalian wheel to draw earthward the moon, which he elsewhere calls a Colchian wheel. Colchian! That sounds very, like, Italian.
Yeah, it does.
It's a supposta. connecting the historical region of Thessaly with the region most associated with witches in myth.
Is anybody else picturing a wheel of cheese?
Wasn't
I'm going to get a nice wedge of colchicine. Put it over the pasta. Be gorgeous. I don't know what accent that is. I apologize to multiple people.
She's trying to do the New Yorker. Erictho, previously mentioned, was said to be a Thessalian. It was said that her, quote, tread blights the seeds of the fertile cornfield, and her breath poisons air that before was harmless, and that she was capable of raising an army of the dead. It said, had she tried to raise up the whole army on the plain and make them fight again, the laws of Erebus would have yielded to her, and a magnitude, brought up by Stygian Avernus, by the power of the fiend, would have taken the field.
Oh my god. She's like the Morrigan.
Hell yeah.
She can raise the dead from like the battlefield. And I love that like her breath would like poison the air. That's just...
Yeah.
She's cool as fuck.
They're all cool.
Yeah.
Aside from the pretty witches, I don't like them.
The pretty witches. They're like mean girls.
Listen, Circe, you might be all cute and young and whatever. I mean, they're cool too. But like, I have an appreciation for these metal as fuck witches.
Yeah. The scary bitches. I like the scary bitches. We love scary bitches.
We love scary bitches at Rowan Pine. Witches are figures that are representations of marginalization. In Greek and Roman literature, they were almost always depicted as being women. These women were not fully enfranchised in the Greco-Roman culture. They had to cast spells and use curse tablets in an attempt to feel any form of control. In the case of Thessaly, it was women who lived in peripheral areas. This made them sort of foreigners, people who were different. Even to this day, people fear the unknown. Others who are not like them.
Yeah, those women on the fringes. They're the dangerous ones because they don't need your acceptance because they've never had it. They're the scary bitches.
Yeah. All right. Should we jump into Creature Counsel?
Yes. Let's do it.
Neve, I believe that you had a question.
Yes. Yeah, okay, I went into the wrong chat. I have way too many WhatsApp chats with bitches in the title. I'm just saying. I have like 4. Like, is this me? Am I the problem?
That's
Am
so
I the
funny.
drama? Okay, this question comes from Haunted in Highgate, and that's with a question mark after it. So this is...
Do they eat haunted bread?
Well, there's a very good cemetery in Highgate. I'm saying very good. Like, it's a cemetery, but like, it's interesting. Anyway.
Wonderful cemetery.
Wonderful cemetery. 5 stars on Yelp. So Haunted in Highgate asks, what can I do about my boyfriend who keeps ghosting me so much he might actually be a ghost? Or maybe he's just afraid of commitment? Question mark.
Okay. Shake, shake, shake. Cupid.
Cupid! Oh my god!
I always stick the landing when I'm trying to get in here. Okay, so you got a boyfriend, and he keeps ghosting you? Well, this is a new invention. Like, I never knew about ghosting. Not before these times. And then y'all got your smartphones, and y'all got your emails, and your text messages, and people just ain't got no manners no more. Back then, it used to be bow and arrow, little shot to the butt, then everybody's getting along. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. You got this boy, and he ain't texting you back. You gotta ask him for a little bit more respect. You gotta tell him, hey, there's 4.5 billion other boys out there that I could be with, and I don't need to be with you, okay? If he doesn't start showing you a bit more respect, you just cut him loose. I could probably fly him up to a cliff for you. I don't know. Get back to me. See what he says. Don't be taking no ghosts here. Ghosts are for dead people. Although, if you want to hook up with a ghost, I know a really nice guy. Really, really nice guy.
And then he turned into the New York woman who's trying to set her son up. Or her daughter. I know, a really nice guy.
Thank you, Cupid. That was very enthusiastic. Kind of creepy. Why is the baby so interested in sex? We don't know.
Yikes. Also, Cupid, where are you from?
I found him outside an Italian restaurant.
From Queens? No.
I think so. He just had the look, Well, I really hope that was Cupid. Otherwise, it's somebody's son. And people might call the police on me. Haunted in Highgate, ? I hope that answers your question. You gotta get a little bit more respect from your ghosting boyfriend, or else Cupid will set you up with an actual ghost if you want. That could be fun.
That would be fun. I would date a ghost for a day.
Yeah.
Would you date a ghost for a day?
They wouldn't leave wet towels on the floor. There's a lot to be said, okay?
And on that note, I'm Emily.
And I am Neve, and thank you for tuning in for episode 29 of the Rowan Pine podcast, the beginning of our broomstick ride around the world.
Witches,
bitches.
We hope you enjoy this series that's coming up because we're excited about it.
We promise we'll make it as fun and as interesting as we possibly can. And hopefully you'll hear some stuff you haven't heard before. So give it a chance.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Join us next time, and we're going to the land of the Celts. Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.
Fuck yeah, folklore.
Fuck yeah, folklore. I forgot.
Bye.